You wake up already behind. Not behind on emails or deadlines, but behind on yourself. Your breath is shallow. Your shoulders remember tension before your mind recalls why. Scroll, sip coffee, mute notifications, and all the while, a quiet hum persists. This isn't enough.
But I don't know what enough even feels like anymore. That hum isn't laziness. It isn't apathy. It's the sound of a nervous system that has forgotten how to meet difficulty, not with resistance, but with presence.
The obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius, 95% of who you are by midlife is subconscious programming. You didn't choose most of your reactions. You memorized them, like muscle memory for survival. The flinch when your boss texts after hours. The tightness in your chest before speaking up.
The automatic yes before your body whispers no. These aren't flaws. They're echoes, reverberations of old adaptations now running as default software. And quiet quitting? It's not rebellion. It's the system's error message, unable to process discomfort.
Shutting down, a slow pan across an empty desk at dusk, laptop closed. Notebook blank, light fading through half-drawn blinds. You've mistaken withdrawal for wisdom. You call it boundaries. You call it self-care.
But what if the real boundary isn't between you and others? It's between you and the version of yourself who still believes hardship must be avoided, rather than inhabited. Your capacity for meaning is directly proportional to your tolerance for friction. You don't need more motivation.
You need more initiation, the deliberate, daily choice to step into the heat of what unsettles you. Not to suffer, but to recognize yourself inside the fire.
This isn't burnout from overwork, it's burnout from over-allowing, saying yes to noise, to obligation, to performance, while saying no to your own depth, your own rhythm, your own unedited truth. Marcus Aurelius, 121 to 180 AD Stoicism. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Think of Dave, a manager promoted twice in 2 years. Charming, confident, always available, never accountable. He thrived not because he was exceptional, but because the system rewarded disengagement disguised as diligence. While others quietly quit, Dave loudly performed, and the organization, starved of authentic engagement, mistook his mimicry for leadership.
3.9% of corporate managers score at a very high psychopathic level. Disengagement, psychic entropy, erosion of shared reality. When people stop showing up, not with resentment, but with vacancy, the space they leave doesn't stay empty.
It fills with manipulation, with projection, with the slow seep of collective numbness. You begin to doubt your fatigue. You wonder, am I just weak? Am I broken? No.
You're simply out of practice with the one skill no algorithm can replicate, enduring your own interior weather. A time-lapse of clouds moving rapidly across a gray sky, then freezing mid-motion as rain begins to fall in reverse. That freeze?
That's you holding your breath before speaking your truth. That reversal? That's you editing your anger into silence, your grief into productivity, your longing into lunchtime scrolling.
Contrast. If you avoid friction, your nervous system forgets how to regulate. If you meet friction, your nervous system remembers how to integrate. You weren't built for comfort. You were built for coherence, for aligning action with attention.
effort with ethics, breath with belief.
Monique didn't quit her job. She quit expecting time, expecting safety, expecting fairness. Her body had memorized lack so thoroughly it began to generate scarcity, missed deadlines, forgotten appointments, chronic fatigue, all symptoms of a psyche trained to anticipate insufficiency.
Henry didn't snap at his team. He snapped at hunger. Skipping lunch to get ahead, he mistook physiological distress for professional failure until he realized his rage wasn't about workload.
It was about unmet thresholds. His mind hadn't been trained to tolerate even mild discomfort without collapsing into narrative. And Dave, he wasn't the villain. He was the mirror.
He reflected back what the system had already normalized: performance without presence, charm without consequence, motion without meaning.
Monique sat in her car for 17 minutes before walking into her office, not because she was afraid of work, but because her body had forgotten how to cross the threshold from autopilot to agency. 13% of American workers report never experiencing flow. Flow isn't found.
It's forged in, the gap between impulse and response. These aren't 3 separate stories. They're 3 frequencies of the same frequency. The human nervous system misreading stillness as threat, pause as failure, discomfort as danger.
Avoidance, neural pruning, reduced tolerance, increased reactivity, deeper avoidance. You don't become fragile by facing hardship. You become fragile by bypassing it, by outsourcing your resilience to caffeine, distraction, validation, or the illusion of control.
The ego loves comfort, not because it soothes, but because it stabilizes the story.
When you retreat into routine, into scrolling, into just getting by, you preserve the fiction that you are still whole, even as your inner world fractures into fragments. The worker, the parent, the friend, the exhausted ghost behind the smile.
The part of you that prefers being right to being free. Comfort is not neutral. It is curatorial. It selects which parts of you get to show up, and which parts must remain buried, unnamed, unattended.
A hand slowly erasing chalk writing from a classroom board. Words like ambition, anger, grief, longing, leaving only fine and busy intact. That erasure isn't peace. It's amputation. The comfort salve, a balm that numbs the wound and the healer. You think you're protecting yourself.
But what you're actually protecting is the identity you built around endurance, not the person who is enduring. There is a profound difference between suffering through something and suffering because you refuse to name it.
Begin each day with one micro act of uncomfortable honesty. Say, I'm overwhelmed, instead of, I'm good. Sit with silence for 60 seconds before checking your phone. Name one feeling without fixing it. Hardship isn't the enemy of peace. It's the forge where peace becomes embodied, not just recited.
You've been taught that strength looks like stoicism, like silence, like never breaking. But real strength is softer and far more radical. It's the willingness to tremble and speak, to hesitate and act, to feel lost and keep walking.
Strength is not the absence of fear. It's the presence of attention. Stoicism was never about suppression. It was about discernment. What is mine to carry, and what is merely wind passing through me? Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be.
B1. Marcus Aurelius. Your mind is the only thing you truly control. When Henry finally ate lunch, not his fuel but his ritual, he didn't gain energy. He gained continuity, a thread connecting hunger to breath, to thought to speech. That thread is what we call agency.
And it frays every time you choose convenience over consciousness. What they see versus what they feel. 3 pillars of embodied resilience. 1. Tending to sensation before story. 2. Naming emotion without judgment. 3.
Choosing action aligned with value, not mood. You don't escape the trap by working harder. You escape it by feeling deeper. By letting your nervous system relearn that discomfort is not collapse, it's data. That pause is not failure, it's recalibration.
That trembling is not weakness. It's the body remembering how to hold itself upright without armor.
Re-engagement isn't a return. It's a reconstruction. You don't go back to who you were before the trap. You build someone new, brick by brick, from the raw material of your own unedited experience.
Every act of courageous attention replants a root in your own sovereignty. Start small, not because you're fragile, but because sovereignty is practiced in increments. Not in grand declarations, but in micro-resistances, closing the tab before the dopamine hit fades.
Pausing before replying to an email that triggers defensiveness. Sitting with the weight of a decision instead of outsourcing it to consensus. A boundary is not a wall. It's a threshold you learn to cross with intention. The trap doesn't end with a breakthrough.
It ends with 1,000 tiny returns, to breath, to hunger, to boredom, to grief, to joy that arrives unannounced and unearned. A close-up of hands kneading dough. Press, fold, rest, repeat. Each motion deliberate, unhurried, grounded. There is no shortcut, no app, no framework.
Just this. Your attention, returned again and again to the texture of your own aliveness. 73% of people report improved well-being after 30 days of daily discomfort practice. Not because hardship is good, but because avoidance is exhausting. And presence, raw, unfiltered, unoptimized presence, is the only ground where you can finally stand as yourself.
You will fail. You will scroll. You will say yes when your body says no. You will forget your own name in the noise. That's not evidence of failure. It's evidence of humanity and the deep, slow work of unlearning.
Speak to yourself as you would to someone you love who is trying, truly trying to come home. The trap wasn't built in a day. It won't dissolve in one either. But every time you notice your breath catching and soften instead of push, you are dismantling decades of conditioning.
Every time you name your fatigue without shame, you reclaim a fragment of your voice. Every time you sit with uncertainty instead of rushing to resolve it, you expand the container of your courage. Inner voice, not the critic, not the cheerleader, the quiet one who says, "I see you,
Keep going. This isn't about becoming invincible. It's about becoming intimate with your limits, your rhythms, your contradictions, with the fact that you are both tender and tenacious, both wounded and wise, both tired and still here. You can be exhausted and committed.
You can be uncertain and decisive. You can be grieving and grateful. The path out isn't linear. It's cyclical, like breath, like seasons, like tides. You retreat, you return, you resist, you relent, you break, you mend.
Not into who you were, but into who you are when no one is watching and nothing is required.
There is no exit strategy, no hack, no pivot, no side hustle that saves you. The only escape is through, not around the hardness. Through the awkward silence before speaking. Through the ache of holding a boundary. Through the vulnerability of asking for help.
Through the humility of saying, I don't know, and that's where I begin. The obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius. You do not transcend hardship. You transfigure it into attention, into rhythm, into belonging. You were never meant to float above life.
You were made to meet it. Knees bent, palms open, heart unarmored. So the next time you feel the familiar pull toward quiet quitting, pause. Not to fix it, not to judge it, just to ask, what is this discomfort asking me to remember about myself? Then breathe.
Then choose once, gently, one act of embodied presence, not because it will fix everything, but because it proves silently, steadily, that you are still here, that you are still yours. Close. The trap isn't outside you.
It's the shape your attention takes when you forget how to hold it. If this resonated, if you felt seen in the quiet places, subscribe, not for answers, but for company on the return. Your attention is your first and final act of freedom.